Week number 10 of the NFL regular season is now in the record books, and what do we know? Well, the Dallas Cowboys are still on a roll. The Pittsburgh Steelers have lost 3 straight. The Philadelphia Eagles, after a fast 3-0 start, have lost 4 of their last 5. Meanwhile, the San Diego Chargers, after blowing one game after another to start the season, have now won 3 of their last 4. The Broncos aren't so super after their second straight road loss, and the Cleveland Browns and the New York Jets still suck. With that in mind, let's take a look now at the Rearview Mirror Show as I take a look at what happened this past weekend, both on the field and from a betting perspective. And let's start with your Sunday night game. Another one of the pushes on this past weekend's card, as that game was Seattle and Buffalo. It opened up 7 early in the morning, but quickly dropped to 6.5. And by 1:30 in the afternoon Eastern time, that line dropped to a solid 6. And I often say 99% of the time, you bet the favorites early and the underdogs late. But as a gambler, as a bettor, you have to be keenly aware of where the public is moving the line. And you saw, as that game dropped from 7 to 6.5, you knew that the public money was coming in on Buffalo. And if you were on the favorite, you had to wait, because you were most likely going to benefit from that line dropping even further, which it did. At the same time, if you were going to ride the dog, boom, you had to jump in early, because when you saw that number of 7 drop to 6.5 that early in the morning, you knew it was probably going to drop even further. So when it dropped to 6.5, if you weren't already in, you had to get in at 6.5, and probably the wise move would have been to buy up the half point to 7. So it finishes at 6. It was a push. Seattle did win the game, but listen, there were some facts that, you had to still be of worrisome note if you're a Seattle fan. The Bills ran 82 plays in that game. Their time of possession, 40 minutes. They had 425 total yards in that contest, meaning that the Seahawks were on the field one hell of a lot. Remember that overtime tie against Arizona a couple weeks ago? They were on the field that game like 46 minutes. And you saw how it wore down their defense the following week when they went to New Orleans, when Sean Payton of the Saints wisely then had a run-pass ratio of 25-25. And the Saints don't normally run the ball because he figured Seattle's defense would be tired. Well, where does Seattle go this weekend? Well, on a short week, they hit the road, go cross-country, and they take on the Patriots coming off the bye. And you saw again, the Seahawks have absolutely no faith in their ground game. They only tried to run the ball 12 times. Hey, it didn't work anyway. They only produced 33 yards. The other thing, the Bills shot themselves in the foot last night. 11 penalties, 115 yards. Of course, it was a flag-happy crew. Seattle had 10 penalties for 75 yards in that contest. By the way, Seattle, just taking a look ahead here, still 9-3-1 against the spread as a regular season dog since Russell Wilson arrived in 2012. Now, the Denver Broncos, their second straight road loss. The first one was to San Diego. This one, of course, to Oakland by that 30-20 score. Broncos only 300 total yards in that loss to the Chargers, while they only had 299 total yards in this one to the Raiders. 3 for 11 on third downs, only 33 rushing yards, 12 penalties for 104 yards. And the Broncos, who had owned this series and had been so dominant against AFC West teams, entered this game 15-1 straight up, 14-2 ATS roll against AFC West rivals, had won 5 in a row, both straight up and against the spread, against the Silver and Black in Oakland coming into this game. Meanwhile, the Raiders had been such a great road play, 5-0 straight up and against the spread this season, but at home had failed to win or cover in 9 of their last 11. Well, they certainly reversed those 2 streaks. By the way, the Raiders are now on an 18-8-1 overall. The other thing to be concerned about in that game is that Broncos their run defense certainly proved to be vulnerable as the Raiders ran for over 240 yards in that contest. You saw, of course, Indianapolis, a team that is so unpredictable, getting walloped at home the prior week by Kansas City, then shows up and beats Green Bay 31-26 in a game that was not nearly as close as the final score indicated. Now the Packers, after getting upset at home, hit the road for 3 straight games, starting with this week's contest at Tennessee. Packers 0-2 this season as a road favorite, losing outright at Minnesota and failing to cover in their road opener and season opener at Jacksonville. And the Packers, of course, have lost 2 straight games as well. Prior week, they failed 33-32, losing in the final seconds at Atlanta. Packers now just 7-11-1 against the spread their last 19 regular season games. Colts, of course, don't play this week, but they've gone over in 11 of their last 14 on the road and 8 of their last 10 games overall. The Chargers, 43-35 home win over Tennessee. They have now won 3 of their last 4. And Melvin Gordon, great game for him, 32 carries, 196 yards for the Chargers, who had 476 yards in that game. But another team that managed to win, even though the flags were going against them all game long. 14 penalties, 107 yards. Does it seem like I'm talking about a lot of teams getting a lot of penalties? Isn't that what the NFL is all about nowadays? And you talk about the disruption of the flow of these games. That doesn't help TV viewership either. Meanwhile, Marcus Mariota, 2 turnovers directly led to 14 points for San Diego, an interception and a fumble. Chargers, despite the win, still just 6-10 against the spread, their last 16 when laying points. The Titans have gone over in their last 6 games. Meanwhile, the Chargers have gone over in 8 of their last 10. New Orleans, of course, coming off their 5th straight cover with the 41-23 win at San Francisco. That was their 4th win in their last 5 games overall. Mark Ingram, who was benched the previous week, lost his starting job, came up with 158 yards in that game. Tim Hightower had 87 after rushing for 102 the prior week against Seattle in the home upset of the Seahawks. Overall, for New Orleans, a team not known for its ground attack, 248 yards among their 571 yards overall in that contest. They had the ball 39 minutes. But it's no surprise. Listen, the 49ers entered that game with the number 32 run defense in the league, giving up over 198 yards, 5.1 yards per carry. That's why the Saints were able to run wild. Saints, by the way, have now gone over in 26 of their last 41 games. Carolina, 13-10 at Los Angeles, the game that cured insomnia this week. 4th straight loss for the Rams. Cam Newton, 20 for 32, 225 yards, 1 touchdown, sacked 5 times. So much for that offensive line, giving him better protection of late. Not this time around. Case Keenum, 27 for 46, 296 yards. He was sacked 4 times. Carolina only had 244 total yards in the contest. So how did they win that game? Well, the Rams outgained them, total yards 339, but they had 10 penalties, and it cost them 109 yards. The Giants, listen, they had the 28-23 win over Philadelphia, but the Eagles pretty much gift-wrapped that game early. First 2 possessions, Carson Wentz playing like the rookie that he is, 2 interceptions that led directly to 2 touchdowns for the Giants. The Giants, again, though, unable to run the ball as they've been unable to do all season long and unable to get the chains moving. They were 4 for 13 on third downs. Their last 3 games, New York, 12 for 41 on third down plays. Meanwhile, the Eagles, 1 for 4 on fourth down, 3 for 15 on third down plays in that game. Eagles had won 4 in a row and covered 4 straight in the series before falling in that one. Kansas City, 19-14 home win against Jacksonville. Chiefs won despite getting outgained 449 total yards to just 231. And the Chiefs were only 1 for 14 on third downs. And they had 8 penalty flags against them for 75 yards. So they were also playing without Spencer Ware. They also were starting Nick Foles instead of Alex Smith at quarterback. And they lost Jeremy Maclin, their number 1 receiver, early in the contest. As a matter of fact, in the first series to a pulled groin. And their tight end, Travis Kelce, was ejected in the 4th quarter because he threw a flag at the official. A lot of guys should throw the flags at the official, considering how many flags the officials are throwing. So how did they win the game? Oh, Jaguars, 4 turnovers. That's how they won that game. Dallas rolled 35-10 at Cleveland, outgained the Browns 423-222. But I think you and 10 other guys could probably outgain the Browns in any game this season. Cowboys 29 first downs to 13 for the Brownies, 40 minutes, time of possession. Browns 0-9 this year, 12 straight losses, 19 of their last 20 games they've lost, 27 of their last 30 they've lost. Their defense has allowed 25 points in every single game this season. The last team to do that, the 1964 Broncos. Baltimore snapping a 4-game skid, but I still say the Ravens are a fraud with that 21-14 win over the Steelers. A rusty Ben Roethlisberger returns to go 23 for 45 for 264 yards. He was sacked a couple of times. Le'Veon Bell, only 32 yards on 14 carries. The Steelers, though, shot themselves on the foot. 13 penalties in that game, 99 yards, and on third down, 4 for 16. But listen, it's not like the Ravens played any better. They only had 274 total yards in that game, and they had 10 penalties for 94 yards. They were 4 for 17 on third down. And then we ended with the Thursday night game, going back in time when the Falcons and Matt Ryan rolled 43-28 at Tampa Bay to improve to 5-0 against the spread on the road this season. Ryan, 344 yards, 4 touchdowns to lead a 461-yard attack. Julio Jones, 8 catches, 111 yards. He needs just 30 more yards to crack the 1,000-yard barrier. Ryan, on the season, 23 touchdowns, over 2,900 yards, only 4 interceptions. Tampa's defense allowed 461 yards in that game after giving up 626 yards and 30 points the week prior in the overtime loss to the Raiders. And, of course, the Buccaneers offensively, not only did Jameis Winston get hurt, but their running back situation, they started Peyton Barber, the rookie. He was the 4th starting running back they have had to turn to this season because of injuries in their backfield. So that'll do it for this week's rundown, your rear view mirror. Remember, the college version is also available on the site. Good luck, everybody, and make sure you catch the daily video report. And this week's edition of the Countdown to Kickoff show from Steve Budin and I should be available no later than Thursday morning. Good luck, everybody.